Mr. Sumner, first of all, how is your client George Zimmerman doing?
Well, I think he's doing all right considering, I mean, he's under a considerable bit of stress as a result of all the things that have transpired in the last few weeks.
Where is George Zimmerman now?
I don't know. My conversations have been on the telephone. I don't know his exact location. I believe he is in the area.
So he's still
has been in contact with him, and he is.
You believe he's still in the United States?
Oh yes.
There had been some indication maybe he was in Peru, or a report he was in Peru. That's not true.
No, that's not true.
What has your client told you about the night he shot Trayvon Martin?
That I believe he should have made a statement to police at that time. I think he did. I don't know for a fact because I haven't seen the police reports on this case. I have not discussed the evening of what occurred that time. I think that'll come out through the investigation process done by law enforcement.
You haven't discussed any of the details of that night with him?
No.
Why?
When there'll be even if I had, that would be attorney-client privilege, and I wouldn't be able to disclose that tonight. But at this point, there's an investigation going on, and I've advised him to cooperate with that investigation. And as far as what did or didn't happen that night, I think there have been interviews with different witnesses and so on to suffice to answer that question for you.
The 911 tapes have been released. Do you know, has your client heard the 911 tapes?
Other than what's being played on television?
Or has he heard what's being played on television?
I don't believe he has heard what's being played on television, nor have I.
Okay, you have not heard them. There are some people who believe that that your client may have uttered a racial slur. Some have heard those 911 tapes. They believe they may have heard that muttered under his breath. Has he made any indication to you about whether or not he did utter a racial slur?
I don't believe he did utter a racial slur. I've asked him if he uses racial slurs, and he has denied that. And as well as he has been involved in a mentorship program, which I think the funding was cut, but he actually mentored two African American. Well, he was a mentor to African American boy, age of 14, and his wife was a mentor to the 13-year-old girl from via their parents. And in this, I talked with the mother of the two children, and she indicated I asked her, did he make comments to you that indicated he was a racist? And she said no. And she is African American, and for the things that he's done, as far as taking the children to the mall, took them to the mall, took them to the science center, did the kind of outings to help the children have time out and to be a friend to them. I don't believe that's the indication of a person who's a racist to do that.
Has he given you any indication why he found Trayvon Martin suspicious?
No.
Because on the 911 tapes, he says these a-holes, they always get away. He also seemed to indicate he believed that perhaps Trayvon Martin was high or was on drugs.
I don't know. What's your question on that?
Again, I mean, he seemed to indicate on those 911 tapes that he found Trayvon Martin suspicious based on something he saw. I'm wondering if he has given you any indication or if you have any sense of why he may have found Trayvon Martin suspicious.
No, I haven't listened to that 911 tape, and I haven't discussed that with him either.
You said your client had injuries. There had been reports that he had a bloody nose, that there was perhaps blood on the back of his head, grass stains on his back. What can you say about what injuries, if any, he had?
I believe that his nose was broken. He sustained injury to his nose, and on the back of his head he sustained a cut that was serious enough that probably should have had stitches, but there was a delay in him getting to the emergency room, so they by the time they got to the doctor, there was an option not to stitch it up because it already had started healing, is my understanding.
So the reports had indicated that the police didn't give him a drug test or didn't test for alcohol in your client. To your knowledge, was your client drinking or using drugs the night he shot Trayvon Martin?
To my knowledge, he was not, and I don't know that what the results of any police report were, because I haven't seen them. I don't know that they've been released.
Did he indicate to you at all about how his nose got broken, or his nose got hurt, or the back of his head got cut?
Well, it was an injury that was done by Trayvon Martin.
Do you know if it was during a tussle? Did he describe at all how that injury occurred?
I have not discussed with him the incidents of that night, other than, you know, the injuries he sustained were from Trayvon Martin. I assume hit him in the face and caused him to fall back and hit his head. I don't know how all the incidents, how it all came down. That's not been something I've discussed.